and then will go for our next panel is the future of fashion, where we have, beside Oscar Metsava, we will have Ali Bambetov and Burak Kakmak, that I would like to pleasure ask you for coming to the main stage. Hi, Burak. Hi, Ali.
Hi, how are you?
Hi, Burak. Hi, Ali. Oh, man.
Where are you guys are based now? Burak, Ali, and Oscar.
I'm in Los Angeles.
We cannot hear you, Burak.
I'm the center of the continent of Brazil. I'm exactly in the place where it has the strongest crystal mineral portion of the planet, and an environment is someplace between Amazon and the Pantanal. Okay. It's a very spiritual and an environmental place in the planet.
And I'm in Athens, in Greece.
Wow! So we are in a very strong points of the
planet. So guys, I'm really happy to have you guys here. So you guys is considering to us our Fashinnovators, was a speaker at Fashinnovation conference in the past. So the topic here is really we discuss about the future of fashion. So before we start, I'd like to kindly ask each one of you introduce yourself, so the audience can know a little bit more about you guys. So if you can start. Let's start from A to Z. So Burak, if you can go first, then Ali, and then Oscar, it would be great.
Sure. I am basically a fashion industry professional. Have been in the sector all my career, and I started in US working with Gap Inc. Ended up moving to Kering in Europe, working with all of their luxury brands, Gucci Group, under the Gucci Group structure, and then moved to Swarovski, worked with the Swarovski group, and then moved to Parsons to become the Dean of Fashion. So just to touch on the previous part before taking on Parsons, my whole role was always about building the sustainability structures in all of the businesses that I've taken part in, which led me to become an academic for 5 years to also bring knowledge around what's the future of fashion and sustainability in design to Parsons. And after completing that 5 years, now I'm actually taking on a new challenge, helping build the fashion industry in the Middle East within the Fashion Commission in Saudi Arabia.
Awesome. Ali?
So I'm Elby Mambetov, and my background in fashion, even though I was born in Texas, I was a London Fashion Week designer for many years, and my focus has, I think, always been about the design aesthetic and pushing the boundaries in that regard. So after converting to Islam, it was really important for me to figure out a way to really be innovative with modest fashion, now that I'm a modest wear designer. And, I think COVID obviously has been this really tragic thing that has happened like all over the world, but in fashion, it has actually allowed us to push boundaries in different ways. So now using technology to create a digital presentation of my designs, it really allows me to embrace sustainability in a way that my brand has never done so before. And in doing so, really discovering how technology can really change the voice of fashion.
Thank you, Ali. Oscar, just 1 minute since you already spoke.
Yeah. Should I introduce myself again? Okay, yes, because it's a second. Yes. Well, I'm a creative director and artist. My academic foundation is as a physician on science, and I became the founder, designer, creative director for Osklin, this Brazilian brand. I'm the founder of the Instituto, the institute that about sustainable development, the sustainable design thinking. After 22 years already, this institute. and I'm also an ambassador for UNESCO on the culture of peace and sustainability.
Awesome. So, guys, to discuss about the future of fashion, I'd like you to each one your vision. What means to you the past of fashion, the present of fashion, and then the future of fashion?
Invite someone.
Yeah, go for it. Okay, sure. Past. Well, look, the fashion started really from the creativity, right? But it was not accessible. So it was beauty that was for the few in the past. It became democratized and it became for everyone. But in the process, it didn't pay attention to its impact and caused a lot of damage in its way. So the future is finding that balance. How do you keep beauty, make it accessible to everyone without creating any damage?
And Ali, what is your views about the past of fashion, the present of fashion, and the future of fashion?
Well, I think the past, it wasn't, of course, about inclusivity. So the present, at least you have different designers at least trying to create brands that are not only accessible to everyone, but that are also inclusive for people, even like me, who want to maybe dress modestly. There are now pieces in different collections that I can personally purchase. And I mean, yeah, just like Brock said, the future is obviously paying attention to our footprint in fashion, of how we're manufacturing things, not having so much dead stock, things like that. But also, I hope to see, you know, those inclusive boundaries continue to be pushed, because that's something that's definitely really important to me as well.
I have two ways. In the speech I began with the fashion as us as a primitive human beings to now and the future. But thinking about more our last centuries, I really think fashion became from very noble gesture of creators, designers, people who would develop the best quality of comfort, durability, and also even with some meanings, cultural layers on this clothing. I'm talking about the last centuries. Um, if we see the great and the only one, I would say, brands that could be uh, before the brands that became to become, or were some who developed for the royal families, for the more richest ones, or for companies that used to do uniforms for war and things for armies and etc. So they come from our century. If we see the great designers we still have, they become the brands that are still on, that has almost 100 or more, or close to that, came for noble gestures to do something good for the society, for the individual, for once. Of course, best qualities, best materials, best time for the education, everything became more expensive. It was more expensive. But with our industrial revolution, we got to bring more popular to achieve the fashion industry. But on the last decades, to achieve other new cultures in the world that became richer, like Latin America, like Africa, like India, like China, and some other regions of the planet. Some luxury brands became not so luxury brands. Some brands became, I would say, not anymore knob in their sense, but became a little bit snob, because the way we could people understand what luxury, what innovation design is, was very far away from dedicating yourself to do something, dedicate your time, dedicate your research, dedicating the best, your love, your talent to do something, the best quality for the others. And I think we became, like Barack told me, we can it's more and more exclusive and not for everybody. And to achieve for everybody, we have developed in the last decades the fast fashion. That was it was about okay, um large scales, large scale on producing, but without caring about where it come from the social impact on the environmental impact. So I think we came in between the both fast fashion and snob luxury appeals and very expensive on the fashion industry. I think we are living now another moment. The future is yes, is to be more horizontal, to be more diversity, to bring yes to bring fashion to everybody. But I mean, fashion is not about buying the clothing to be included in the fashion. To be included in the fashion is about talking about culture. We have to share more knowledge about the culture of fashion to understand like we do in culture, I mean on the art, architecture, everything. We society, we don't need to have that paintings, that that buildings, that house, that design ones. If we can look, observe, understand the inherent content, originality, the way they were made. That's wonderful. If we think about the social impacts we can bring to nowadays on sustainable to and this balance with the planet, with the natural research. If we come with that, it's much more important. And I think this digitalization is going to do that. It's not about only owing the fashion, but understanding and how to develop it in other ways to be more horizontal and include everybody. A balance between sustainability on producing the real clothing, the real fashion, with economics, but not in huge scale. We don't need so much clothes that we had. We have to know how to use the original ones, the ones that have a meaning for you, the ones that respect the social and environmental impact, and that's it. I think this is what we're living now.
Perfect. And moving on this flow, you guys can share a real example or case that really inspire you now when comes the future of fashion.
I mean, yeah, you can think about a lot of things. I think what inspires me is to see, going back to diversity and inclusivity, which is a topic that's very common in US, but I think the other part of diversity inclusivity is a shift of the fashion centers. And that now somehow we are able to see and hear and engage with the people from anywhere in the world. So if you look at even what's happening in, let's say, Lagos, Nigeria, and other many other, from Beirut to many other places, suddenly you're seeing many creatives with different ideas, different perspectives, different approach to design, but with the common thread, they want to make their voice heard, relevant to their culture, with respect to environment, very much with interest in sustainability, and being able to share their concepts, ideas with their local, regional community, but also international community. And when you look at something like LVMH Prize, it's amazing to see the number of brands that are going through the semi-finalist selection, and most of them are now from places you would have never thought of as a fashion center. So we are seeing creativity bubbling up from everywhere, and as I said, nearly all of them has sustainability now embedded in it. So just that fact already shows there has been so much progress, especially from the emerging brands. And also from the rest of the world beyond Paris, New York, London, and Milan scene as well. So that kind of encourages me to see what's going to happen with the fashion world going forward.
How about you, Eli? Do you have an example and few reference that you can share with us that you have in mind that really represents the future of fashion to you?
Yeah, absolutely. I think one of the things I've tried to do in my boutique in Beverly Hills is to bring and curate a lot of designers around my own brand that are international to really showcase diversity and inclusivity. So, I mean, when we talk about fine jewelry, we have Turkish brands like Torzahan, we have Tuba from Beirut. We have all of these different designers from Cairo, from Dubai, everywhere around the world. And being in Los Angeles, it automatically sparks people's interest because it's bringing life to fashion in a way that people are not used to seeing. And although, my boutique's right next to Louis Vuitton and Gucci and all of these major fashion houses, is really kind of showcasing these different parts of the world and, like Brock said, the artistry that is there. And something that we do, which I think if fashion were able to embrace this concept, sustainability could really grow in such a different way, is we allow people to bring in their old dresses or something like that, and we repurpose it for them. So perhaps this dress has long sleeves, they wish it was short sleeves, or they wish it was made into a shorter dress, or whatever. So we help them actually repurpose some of the garments that they really love and they really care about. And so while we are selling different couture pieces or different pieces from my line, we aren't trying to build fast fashion in a way where we're churning through seasons and everything goes on sale and then just on to the next thing. We're very much about statement pieces and pieces that last, the test of time. And then we encourage people as well. If you have something in your closet that you love this piece, but you want to make it more current, bring it to us. We'll chop off a sleeve. We'll make it more current for you. And I think these are also things that we can think about in terms of sustainability in the future.
Mm-hmm.
Oscar.
Yes, I think it's the word that we should bring is inclusivity. We have to include more communities and more cultures and more materials into the fashion industry supply chain. An example I can bring is Simone Cipriani at Ethical Fashion from the UN. After already 10 or more years, he's developing this to bring African designers, African artisans, African threads, everything to the fashion industry. I think it's something it's developing each year is going through. It's a huge challenge. Also, our own projects from OSC and Instituto in our poor communities are around in Brazil, and also in our communities in the Amazon rainforest on the fish skin from the pirarucu that brings better economics and better esteem from people taken from, like the seringueiros, also from the latex from the trees from the Amazon. We are bringing the ancient cultures into that. We are bringing them, helping them to, if we give them ways to develop to have employees that comes from a source on sustainable ways from the forest, from its biodiversity, as we are doing. We will offer to the people who lives in the forest a more ethical employee than the only ones that we have we society plan to have them that's to work in the illegal gold minings, in the lodging, deforestation, things like that. So we have to bring, include more people into this economics of our fashion industry.
Guys, when we have the words innovation, a lot of people already automatically relate innovation with technology. And at Fashinnovation, we look innovation in more broad way. I'd like to ask you guys, in your opinion, what really you have as a top of mind as examples and that you can illustrate that can today means to you innovation, and in the future means to you innovation also related of technology, but as well not necessarily related of high advanced technology.
So I think one of the things that I try to educate brands on is dead stock. So before, brands would, produce their samples, and then they would also just move to mass production very quickly. And they would want to sell not only to retailers, but on their own platforms. And so many brands end up with seasons and seasons and seasons of just dead stock. It's just sitting there. And I remember traveling to Cambodia, and there's the Women's Development Center in Cambodia, which is a government initiative, and it's bringing women from, different villages in Cambodia, and it's teaching them a trade. And I think as brands, we initially just think, okay, let me find the best manufacturer somewhere. Let me produce, a mass production of this sample run. And there are other ways to be innovative and to include sustainability. So going back to the Women's Development Center in Cambodia, you can actually partner with them, and they are teaching women a trade. And not only are we then empowering, women in different villages in different parts of the world, but it's also a much more sustainable way, an innovative way to create what we would like to create in fashion.
Maybe I can add to that around the fact that there's a lot of other change happening in the industry, and COVID enabled the digital transformation of every brand. So, I mean, you mentioned it yourself as well, Elle, that clearly everybody's looking at new ways of adopting new tools, which inherently has sustainability benefits, but also it changes the process. I fully understand anybody appreciating the traditional methods, but it's a moment also in experimenting what is the right tool for different designers. So I think there's no one right way, but I think with the new generation, that is especially growing as a digital native community. They are more comfortable playing on a computer than doing things by hand. Yes. So in reality, this allows them to be able to do 3D renderings and drapings and create even all of their sampling. So these are kind of invisible parts where the fashion industry has a lot of impact, but the technology is enabling them to create in a very new way. And it has a lot of benefits and values and experimentation. If you're the previous generation, maybe you never want to go there, but we also have to acknowledge that there will be a new generation for sure adopting it and will be using it. And that is the future. There's no way of avoiding it. So that is very much about a software that enables, and it's very much technology. But having said that, there's also innovation, just like what we're talking about, that exists with existing tools. That's not about using a new software that can really have an impact on how the industry works. Ultimately, whatever we do and what technology we're using, what we need to keep in mind is technology is always the tool. It's all about the connection that we are having. If as a designer, you have a connection with your team, you have a connection with the people that are buying your product. If these tools are enabling you to have a better dialogue and improving the output, then we should adapt it. And if you find it easier because you work in a small community and people are comfortable coming and seeing you every day face to face, that's also great and that's beautiful. But obviously, in a world where we have 7 billion people, we have to look at what are the realistic ways of doing things, where we can also democratize and give access to more people around what we do, and also have access to a market, because fashion design ultimately is a commercial activity. And so, having it as a business is always part of that balance.
Right.
I'm going to talk about what we do at Osklen, what I think with my team, and then we see ourselves not only as a protagonists in the culture of the country or in the world culture through our proposals of our fashion. Also, of course, the commercial side as a designers to develop it in the economic ways. And but we see, and we know that we already known about that. We consider ourselves a laboratory for the sustainable design thing for the innovation in the fashion industry, in ourselves, and the country, and the world. Osklin for us is laboratory for innovation on sustainability, because with fashion, of course, we work with traditional materials, fabrics, etc., kind of tannering, things like that. The luxury ones, the more popular classic ones, and also with the new fibers that the technology industry brings to us to help to develop, to see it. We mix that. And we have developed on the last 22 years, bringing our own projects with Instituto E and some other institutions in Brazil and worldwide into the sustainability ones. So we consider, yes, we like that. I know for sure it's, if we see for a company, it's our investment of time, talent, and even capital to this innovation, to be a laboratory, it's expensive. But I think it's from my own conception and my love. The company understand that, the whole team of design, things like that. I think it's very important to designers to have those in mind, not only the commercial side and not only the protagonism on the culture, but also in the of course in developing sustainability, not only using materials, but maybe going through into developing, like we do, our designers, we develop also, we help to develop the threads. We like doing that. I think it's an example, I would say. I think Oscar is a kind of an example.
Great. And what's technology is really you guys are paying attention more now to that the fashion industry in general? Is there a top technology that's, oh my God, this is really something that I'm blown away?
What I mean, as my education's mix of science, body, human body, design and art and sustainability and things like that. But technology, I think it's biotechnology. I think it's, yes, to bring this hybrid between our physical layer, our cultural layer, and now our biological layer together. I think the digital on this is new studies on biokinetics, from movement, the perfection, the movement, not only for performance, but for prevention of injuries. Re-educating ourselves, to reprogramming our body, to learn from science. And so sustainability, I really think we are already, our industry is already, the mindset has changed. Of course, we have some years or maybe decades to become 100% sustainable on social and environmental side. But I'm involved on this digital way and technology into the human body as science, and with design of fashion. I think that there is something we can, I don't know, this is something I'm getting into, using my my knowledge as a physician and orthopedics, go into that.
Yeah, well, I mean, just to add to that, even biomaterials, obviously, it's not about the body itself, but it's a way of, cool. To be able to create cotton to everything else in the lab is a great opportunity to rethink what's the impact of harvesting basically non-food materials. That's one. But then beyond that, you're also seeing a lot of small technologies coming together and creating a whole new value chain. So that may not be groundbreaking, but it's actually changing and disrupting the whole system. So suddenly, now we are living at an age where, as a designer, you can do everything remotely without ever even touching a material, and without even working physically in the same space with anybody, and ship a product to a customer. This is unimaginable.
Yes, we can be any place in the world and being, yes.
And you're able to, even existing stuff allows you to do fully custom-made products where the customer is able to order and get it made and shipped to them in a week. And it doesn't require anybody to be all together in one place.
Yeah, absolutely. I think something that's interesting for me is the different ways that we can present fashion. And Brock, like you were saying, the new generation and technology. I mean, it forces people like me to figure it out and like keep up. But even with NFTs, and I'm so excited to see how that's going to have like an impact on fashion, because it's this whole new, world.
New retail.
New retail, I had a meeting on Eid, and I was like, "What? You want to introduce NFT and scan and explain it to me?
Yeah, exactly.
How does it work? Like, how is it going to work in the boutique?" So, I think that there's just so many new layers of technology, and then how that's going to fuse with fashion is going to be so interesting. I hope I can like keep up mentally, to introduce these kind of new innovations to my clients and my customers. And then, just like you were saying, we can make customization for a client. Someone can come into the boutique and order their name, in a piece of jewelry in Arabic, and then it's made by Yatagan in Saudi Arabia and then sent. And it's just this really amazing process to be a part of.
And actually, that reminds me that we already have brands that are doing digital-only garments, right? So that was the start of it, and now the NFTs are enabling this to be valued even as an art piece and trade in it and gain value, and it becomes. I mean, so fashion is integrated in other sectors, and in some ways, everything is merging, right? So you cannot separate one sector from another anymore.
Right,
fashion and technology and art and design and performance.
Yeah, no, totally.
Fashion is becoming more fascinated now than ever, because now we can really, exactly what you said, Wolf said, that it's art, science, it's architecture, it's diversity, it's the human behavior, society behavior. So we are in a very great moment for fashion. Yes, because fashion is about observation of society behavior, human behavior, and we are, as you said, Barak, COVID did bring us into ourselves more, into the other ones, and into nature. Huh? Gave us this chance. We have to see it, and technology helped us to keep not far, because when we think about going into ourselves, into nature or into the others, we feel we are getting out of, reality, cosmopolitan way. But technology, I think technology, are helping us to become more human. Again, like Renaissance. I like that moment. I'm very happy to be living this generation of the human civilization. I think it's a great time to be living.
It's really great. And guys, moving on the general consumer perspective, even as a designer, as a founder, as a creative director, the fashion industry starts to planning a lot of different and new ways. But as Burak told, in the end, is business, is market, and you need to have people that will buy or consume this. What you feel is the challenge on the general consumer perspective, from the fashion designer or brand owner, to really bring these innovations to the market in the general consumer perspective?
I think that something that's happened, which sometimes brands fall into, is this trap of trends, right? So it used to be, as a designer, you wanted to develop your own design aesthetic, and it was very different from anything anyone else was doing. And, designers, we took so much pride in that. And then what's kind of happened with the introduction of fast fashion is then even new brands, they're developed based on trends, and then consumers are kind of sold the exact same item, but just from a different brand, like slightly tweaked, but it's the trend that's happening right now. And so I think sometimes consumers are looking for that trend, And as designers, we now have to kind of push through that trend to almost take these kind of blinders off of consumers to say, like, this is something new, this is something innovative, and then invite them into a different experience. And then, we then have to say, how can we educate consumers about this different experience? So I think that, yeah, as consumers, I mean, especially, if you're on Instagram, for example, you get so many adverts in between, whoever you're following or whatever on your feed, that you're just shown so many things all the time. And I think that, yeah, consumers are just always shown the trend. And then we have to kind of find ways to push through that to really show what's being innovative in fashion.
And then I think that triggers another, because I have been reading a lot about both AI and data analytics, which is driving everything.
Right.
And the fact that even on digital channels, there was an argument around creativity is being lost, even identifying the most interesting videos, and forget about just designs, because it's what is being trendy is based on analytics, and people know how to trigger that, and creating stuff that's just going to increase their opportunity to get highlight. So when it comes to fashion, big brands already follow that direction. Let's rely on data and analytics. But then suddenly you're basically looking at the past to predict the future. So then you're lacking this idea of what is new. It's just constantly repeating the idea that, oh, this was interesting, so let's repeat that more. So absolutely, the mold has to be broken, and the ones that can break that is the one who can take the risk. So either they have a lot of cash in the bank and they're very big brands, or you're starting new and you have nothing to lose.
Right.
so it creates the opportunity. But I think this is the risk with so much data and analytics. I understand the value of it, but we have to understand that your data is always looking at the past. So, and you don't know until you see what you need.
Yeah.
You know what you said exactly. For me at the company, it's a challenge always, because of course the commercial side want to know AI, the analytics going through. Of course, I can understand these algorithms and things bring more sales into new customers, into new followers, etc., etc. But thanks God, I'm on the creative direction of it, and I understand. Of course, we have to bring economics to the company, of course, but no, yes, it's a challenge. It's every day's effort to bring the passion of creating, innovating, bring things from love, from things that you. Yes, we design, create. We have to. We want to express ourselves, express our ideas, our team ideas into society through creating. Come on, fashion is about creativity. Fashion is about observing, not learning from the past, being inspired by the past. Okay, algorithms can help us, and we are working on that, but thinking forward with passion, vision, philosophies, and watching what's going through that environmental diversity things around. Come on. Yes, Burak.
You're absolutely right.
No. Cool.
No, because it's really around looking around you, and in some ways, every time I work with the designers in the school as well, is they sometimes lose the point of who they are, and without looking at who you are no different than anybody else. And in a very crowded space, the only way you differentiate is be true to your values, your environment, and take inspiration from that, which hopefully is different than everything else. And that's one challenge about just being on the digital platforms, because everybody's looking at the same things. So as a creative, you need to get out of that and then really look what is physically around you.
I use this word that you guys mentioned in different way, inspiration, right? And when it comes the fashion, the creativities, and the whole economic aspect involved, come as well the word entrepreneurship and the entrepreneur to really have the idea and makes things happen, right? That is really the common a sentence that when becomes the entrepreneurship. In your vision, guys, imagine that we are now trying to inspire really, really young fashion entrepreneur that you wanted to become famous on the fashion industry. What three advice should you advise this young entrepreneur that you wanted to become a really, really this entrepreneur on the fashion industry now and more than ever considering the future?
Yeah. I can get started. I mean, the truth is, as an entrepreneur, the most critical part is cash flow. So really focus on where you need to put your efforts in.
Yeah.
Don't waste your money in the wrong place,
Yeah.
and that includes also the full range, because we are used to the idea of you need to do a full collection. No, you don't.
You don't.
Really, really narrowly focus on honing on the right product and very few items that are representing who you are, and push getting visibility to that so you're known for your signature item.
Exactly.
Don't waste money on anything else, and make sure it's done right. Promoting it, I'm using most of the money to marketing, is also not enough. The product has to talk for itself as well when people receive it.
Yeah.
Unless you're selling a digital one, of course.
And that's a whole different ballgame.
Yes. I'll let you answer from your experience.
No, I mean, I think when I first started my brand, I fell into the trap of, I knew what my design aesthetic was, but at the same time, I wanted my brand to be commercial enough. So when I then moved into modest fashion, for me, it was about incorporating my personality into my design aesthetic. So I used a lot of Arabic writing going through my prints and things like that. And that has really defined my design aesthetic. And I think my garments are very distinctable from, any other brand. And what's been exciting about that, what I kind of try to encourage upcoming designers, is your design aesthetic is what you will be known for. So it has to be you. It has to be something that you actually connect to. And, I do webinars for Parsons sometimes. And that's what I'm trying to teach their students, is that you have to be brave enough to have your own design aesthetic, because that's what people will know you for. That's what people will say, oh my gosh, I've seen this designer. What's that designer? Oh my gosh, I saw this. They will remember. And that's, hopefully one of the important things that, we try to create is our own identity in what we're creating.
Yes, as what we are talking, I think to understand what are the elements of style of your design, your personality, your own style, and how you decodify it into design, into your collection, into your messages, into those fashion shows, into the materials you do. I think, yes, it's about the colors, with the colors that belongs to your elements of style, the forms you have developed over the years, from that comes from abstract ideas or some real physical observation, pictures, design, things like that. That you come and you bring the lines of your dresses, your coats and your accessories, and also I really think what helped for us also, it was developing these new materials from sustainable sources. From the last 30 years we have developed, most of them came from raw materials, some new materials, some things like that, and became part of our elements of style. Also, also the materials we have used. So it's interesting. It's interesting to see other designers, other brands. I love when you see a piece of someone's, and you don't have even something to describe how you could recognize the DNA of that designer, even when the designs are copied by others. And who really knows? That's why I love the culture of fashion and knowing about fashion, understanding where fashion comes from. The concepts. It's not about just doing clothing. The clothing and the materials are our canvas to what we create under it. It's majestic And not only Magetica nowadays, now it's how they are made from, the fibers, everything, the materials, the tannering way you do, everything. They are already, yes, the elements of style of a brand, of a designer. And I think when I was talking about, we have to spread the culture of it to people, us consumers, to look a piece of a designer, understand the DNA, respect the DNA, to understand, to have the moment of this insight that the designers had to curate it, to understand how it comes from. It comes from technological. Though, so interesting to know about some fiber, how technology was developed, or some other kind of fiber, or the way it was made that was from a sustainable social impact. You know, there is the story behind, the storytelling behind a product, from the concept design idea, from the proposal ideas for the culture of society, and where it comes from. It brings so many info, so interesting. It's much more interesting to be talking with a friend about something, about some design or some piece, some story about, than just wearing that piece. You know, we don't need to own what we fashion designer, what fashion industry creates. We have to live, to understand its culture on behind, the story on behind. It's much more fascinating. And of course, if you can have the possibility to achieve, or not only by economics, but to find this piece, and introduce it into your own style, with the elements of your own style from other designers who develop it for you, or yourself develop it your own, and bring pieces that you can tell about them story. It's so cool. It's not just fashion that I see someone with a cool look, I say, wow, this guy is interesting, this woman is, wow, super sensual, etc. She knows about fashion because she's up to date to that, or she's elegant because she knows this brand does some sophisticated things. But if we know more about the pieces, I think the culture of fashion is gonna throw away, to be much more stronger into the protagonism of the culture of the regions, designers, brands, planet, things like that.
Amazing. Guys, we have 2 minutes to go. And then I would like to ask each of you, considering the figure of really, really the young fashion entrepreneur that you want to really, really to grow their business and navigate in the future of fashion. 2 tips that you can really, really advise these 2 fashion entrepreneurs to navigate in the future of fashion. 2 tips that if you can relate it with your experience, you'll be more than perfect.
I want to go first so I can steal
Go
it.
for it. Go for it.
Okay, so my 2 tips would be, like Brock said, you don't have to create, a massive collection. Hone in on what the really important pieces are, and then go from there. And make sure your design aesthetic is visible in those pieces that you're making. So sorry, Brock, I stole.
Perfect. No. I mean, and just to add to that, I think we are now at a moment the industry is going through such a disruption that the old rules do not apply even to big brands.
Yeah.
So number 1 tip is don't try to copy what's already broken. You need to reinvent. So definitely think out of the box in doing that. And then the second one is see fashion not just as a commercial activity, as a creative person. See it as part of culture and culture of the society you are part of. So and take elements of that, so that what you're doing with fashion as a tool is contributing to that cultural engagement with your community and society. That will make you stand apart and create something unique. And you don't even have to think about it has to be a dress, it has to be this, it has to be that. Really start with the cultural piece first, and understand whatever subculture you're part of, engage with that and create things that are relevant to it.
Yeah.
And suddenly you'll create something quite unique and already has a need and a demand that it meets.
I agree totally with you both. It's exactly that. What I would say in a more practical, not practical way, I think we designers for fashion design, we used to work with materials that industry brings to us, and then we create from there. No?
That's true.
Like a nut. Okay, we have colors, we have different kind of materials, textures, etc., etc. And we develop a collection. I think we are living two things now, us contemporary. First, develop on this digital virtuality, you know, kind of fashion involving, you know, the real virtuality, the avatars, you know. We have, yes, I think it's another, I would say, segment for us fashion designers to develop that. And also on the very opposite way, that I think the fashion designers should be much more involved into the developing of new materials, you know, into the design of new fibers, into the design of new blends of fibers, sustainable fiber mix, like we do there, like mix it with technological fiber, with a more natural fiber like silk and cotton, you know, things like that. I try to say to my team, and we have to see, yes, what we are going to bring as a piece, you know, on this imagetic and comfort product that we have to bring, but it's what fashions are. But we have to understand how to develop new fibers. First, understand and know about the actual fibers, and another thing, create also innovation in the opposite way. You know, it's I think it's a really, the range for fashion designers is huge. It's from the technological virtual to the real on clothing, or into the, you know, into the developing of materials. I really think, and we try to do that in Oscar, is to be involved in all those, the exchange of all of them.
Thank you so much, Oscar. Thank you so much, Ali. Thank you so much, Burak. Thank you so much, all the organization. This is the future of fashion by Fashinnovation.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Bye, Ali. Bye, Barak.
Bye-bye.
Bye, Marcelo. Cool.
Thank you very much, Marcelo, for running the panel.
Thank you so much, guys. Have an amazing day.
Have a good day. Bye. Goodbye. Bene, abbiamo finito anche questo panel. A questo punto noi chiudiamo un attimo questo stage per un po', ci rivediamo qua più tardi per una premiazione.